Welcome to Inbox Attack. We're going to dive into a really one of my favorite writing workouts based on this concept of desperation. So, uh, we're going to look at desperation. We're going to look at some different ways to eliminate neediness from email, business messaging, anything you're writing for business, and then some different ways of injecting confidence back into your writing without being super egotistical or self-serving about it. All right. So why is desperation such an awful thing? And it comes down this really basic, once again, over and over and over again, I keep on talking about this all these evolutionary psychology things is people don't buy desperate. And it's odd that so many people use it thinking that it's going to work. And there are times when it can work. Panhandlers are a case of this. But there's a lot more complex psychology happening there, as far as, if I've made eye contact with him, I need to give him money. Oh no, he's walking over here with this cardboard sign. Quick, grab what change you've got to get him out of here. I don't want to reject him. I don't want that guilt sitting over my head. But in business, desperation is bad. And the reason why is that from an evolutionary perspective, when the first hunter-gatherers were assembling into tribes, they wanted to have strong people on their team. So they wanted to strong and skilled and confident. They didn't want someone that if a saber-toothed tiger comes cruising around, they would just freeze in fear and not tell everyone. I was like, everybody, there's a saber-toothed tiger. We need to run. Like, it's not desperation. That's just being smart, right? So they were looking for strength and smarts. And how are you going to add to the tribe? In business, it's no different. No one wants to buy from somebody that's desperate. And it's odd because even for me, like when I'm in a difficult sales situation in business, I still have to fight this urge to be like, oh, come on, this is I really need to close this deal today. I really, really need this. And that is just it's gonna keep pushing that goal of turning this prospect into a client or a customer, making it official. It's just going to keep pushing that goal farther and farther away. So ultimately, we're going to use different frameworks to help eliminate this from our writing, but not replace it with the opposite extreme, which is ego, which is probably what we should do next week. About telling you all about my feature article in the New York Times, which does not exist yet. All right. To be clear, desperation kills deals. It doesn't. For lack of a better term, this is not a cautionary tale that being desperate in an email or even smelling even a hint of desperation in an email is going to it's not just going to slow down the deal. It's it's okay if I let a little bit of desperation there. It's going to actually kill the deal. Because even if they do eventually buy from you and it comes time for you to deliver the product or the service or the shinola or the experience to that person, they're going to question everything that much more because you're not sold on your own stuff. You need to be sold on what you're selling. And sales coaches talk a lot about this because until you become a complete believer, until you become a complete believer in your own product, your own service, this experience, whatever it is you're slinging, until you reach that point, no one else is going to believe you. And as I said, and I'm going to say this again, even if you end up getting the deal, even if you end up closing this person, when there's that desperation in there, you you're going to create bigger problems for you later down the road. There's a David and I were talking about a client that we're dealing with recently, where we onboarded them, and it was a really, really slow month for us. And I was like, usually I want to do this, but we ended up we didn't give them a discount, but we ended up I got desperate. I won't blame David on it, but I got desperate. I'm like, wow, I really need to close this. So I threw a couple extra deliverables into the package, a few bonuses. And that in itself was a desperate act. And that particular client in turn used that to put the thumb screws on us and try to get more deals and more deliverables. And they turned into a whiny client. And we were jumping to and trying to scramble around. We are still trying to get rid of this client. So it became a very expensive problem. Even though it generated cash, it generated more hassle. So desperation kills deals. So this is not one of these things that you can allow to slip in a little bit just because like, I don't want to come off as mean, or like this, yeah, it is really expensive. This is an expensive thing. So we've got some, oops. I'm actually going to read this one out loud because it's just that humorous to me. This is something that a cold email that David got. So, dear David, it looks like my email last week must have missed you. I was asking a question about Outlook. What if you could turn Outlook, the tool your salespeople use morning, noon, and night, into a powerful sales pipeline management system? My company has a solution to do just that. I won't need more than 10 minutes to show you how it works. We're called Eradicating. Our Profit CRM solution makes Outlook the only tool you need to track and drive sales. There's no costly new program for sales to learn, and you'll finally know what is really going on with your pipeline. David, let me know a date and time this week or next when you're free for a couple minutes, and I'll set up a quick call to discuss how we might help you. Talk soon. All right. So right out of the gate, I don't know who this guy is, but it says, it looks like I just missed you. Like that, even though it's not overtly desperate, it still smells like desperation. I was like, you must have missed my call. Like, because if you were paying attention, you would have seen that there was like no confidence in there. There was the posturing of this person. Like if they're standing up, they would be kind of slouchy and not speaking with any confidence. And the rest, I mean, anyone that's been on these calls before, the rest of these there's just mistake after mistake after mistake made in this email. So also asking a question. It's like, wouldn't that be awesome if you could have that? Like, wouldn't that be cool? Don't you want to go on a date with me? Like, that's one of the reasons why we avoid asking too many questions in emails, because it's way too easy for desperation to slip into that messaging. So I'm going to let me hop into, I'm going to hop in. I keep a file of these, of emails that I think aren't very good cold emails. I'm going to go through them real quick. So let's find a couple in here. So this one's not as desperate, but he said, hey, what's the best way to get 15 minutes on your calendar? That's a direct ask. But phrasing like this, all right, quick follow-up on my previous note regarding driving leads from LinkedIn. That's direct. That's typically wouldn't be considered bad writing. But in this case, it's hey, the word quick is used a lot now. Hey, I just need a second of your time. Could I just please, just real quick, just one more thing, real quick. And even though that's not like whiny desperate, that still smells like desperation, because it's like, wait a minute, you know what? No, this isn't a quick note. I've got something amazing and important that I think you really you're going to want and need. All right, let's got a couple more. Let's see. This one exhibits the opposite problem. So another form of desperation is who sends out emails this early in the morning? That's actually a really good subject line. But right out of the gate, if you think about the framing of something like that, it's really, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you're making an excuse right out of the gate why you're contacting them. Like, I don't need to make an excuse like, oh, hope not to interrupt you. Hope I'm not interrupting your busy day. If your product or service or Shinola or whatever it is that you're selling is not worth an interruption in somebody's day, then you should not be selling. It means you're not sold on your own product. So everything in there we need to go through these things very deliberately. As I said, some of them are going to be easy to spot. That's why this guy here is just hammering me one of these automated sequences. So there's just example after example of either from a framing perspective or the actual words that they use. This is a really boring one. So be very wary of some of these items of framing of hey, that this is not worth your time. All right, because ultimately when you are not totally sold in your messaging on your own product, people like, well, why would I want that? Because want versus need, people they buy things, they act on things based off of want, based off of desire, sometimes based off of fear of not getting what they want or what they desire. But ultimately it's all structured around want, not versus need. So when you come off needy in any way at all, you're already in the wrong department. You're already, they're going to sync up this, okay, he or she needs something from me. What do I need from them? Well, so this is not a game of need. This is a game of wants. You want them to want it. I've got something good. I think it's awesome. Let's talk. Here's how it's going to help your life. Then we can use all those other frameworks to help illustrate and highlight what they may want about what you have. Okay. So I mentioned before, talked about posturing. Now, when you're posturing in an email, a lot of this is a subject line. A lot of this hinges around just overall tone, verbiage. But ultimately, when you're sending a cold email or you're approaching someone on a voicemail or in a conference, this is about confident conversation. And we've done pieces before on bios. What do? Well, I kick ass is what I do. Like, that's super egotistical though, right? But ultimately, the goal here is we want to have a confident conversation with them. We want to know what they're confident about, because once you see what they're confident about, it'll be easier with contrast, creating contrast to reveal, what they're not confident about. So this aspect of framing it in a confident way is really, really important. Another way to frame that confident conversation is to flip the concept of this is what I want from you, and actually just be direct about it. Like, I want this from you. I want this from you. And that's one of the ways you could actually get out of the thing immediately, is because it does take a lot of confidence. Like, hey, lend me your jacket. Hey, could I borrow your car, your Mercedes, to impress a client next weekend? Could I do that? Like, having the confidence to have a big ask. Yeah, I want an hour of your time next week. That's what I want. So actually, that's one of the ways that with the framing and the posturing, you kind of turn it around. Now, I know think that you should use that tactic all of the time, but that's the whole point of inbox attack, is we're going to, all of these different rewrites will kind of tease out better angles and different ways of doing things to kind of get you out of your own head for a minute. All right. So another aspect of confidence is not to beat around the bush. Now, some of the emails I see are really good from folks. They say, hey, you know, we've got, you know, I've got something really awesome. I think it's highly applicable in your space, and I think it's worth a conversation today. Like, so I mentioned before, the higher up the food chain you go, so the people that have more money, typically they have less time, or they might have time, but they're much more selective with how they spend their time. They have more influence, so their black book is going to be thicker. So the higher you go up the food chain to where the big dollars are, or and the folks that can afford that extra zero on the bill, the shorter the messaging needs to be. And the shortness of the message actually indicates confidence too. So having a long drawn out, people would call it salesy message to a potential client, actually the length of it all by itself, even if it's worded perfectly, is gonna smell like desperation. I was like, they're really pushing this hard. Like, you know, there was enough curiosity there that I think it's worth a phone call. I want to go down this rabbit hole. Yeah, I'm curious. Because ultimately, we're not asking them to open their wallets right away. We just need them to click on something or reply to something. All right. So just a quick recap. Desperation will kill the deal. Even if you close the deal, even if you get them to buy the product, even if you get them to book the meeting, they will turn into a problem child later. Like more often, 9 times out of 10, 19 times out of 20, they'll turn into a problematic customer or client later on down the road, because now they're in a power position and you're not. But typically you just won't close the deal at all, because you know, people buy based off of want. You want them thinking about want, not thinking about need. All right, direct, short. So there's a few different things you could do to do that. So we're going to do some writing exercises now.